Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, October 14th. This is Gina McGuire. Over the next few days, we will have very strong winds to affect much of the Great Basin, especially across Nevada, with the strongest winds today and again Saturday afternoon through Sunday over western and northwest Nevada. These wind gusts in the far west will gust above 70 miles per hour through these time periods, and even further east we'll see wind gusts between 50 and 60 miles per hour fairly widespread across Nevada. Across the rest of the Great Basin, we will see stronger winds between 40 and 55 miles per hour at times over parts of Idaho and Utah, but these fuels are not as critical. We've had much drier conditions across the western side of the Great Basin. Currently this morning, we already have a few fires emerging across western Nevada due to these very dry and windy conditions already early this morning, and this will likely continue through the next several days. Over the last 7 to 30 days, we've seen very dry conditions, especially across Nevada into Utah and the Arizona Strip the last week, with really only some precipitation in the central Idaho mountains. Over the last 30 days, the only areas that have seen above normal precipitation have been in the north and east, with again very dry conditions over much of southern Nevada and into the Sierra and western and northern Nevada, which is well below normal. Currently, ERCs continue to rise over the western side of the Great Basin, but are still generally below the 70th percentile. However, still live fuel moistures are quite low across these areas. Therefore, the potential for larger fires emerging and spreading with these windy conditions is very high. The water vapor satellite loop from this morning shows a very strong area of low pressure off the northwest coast, which is pushing quite a bit of moisture into northern California today, but also very windy conditions across the Great Basin. We will see clouds move across the area, but really the bulk of the precipitation will not occur until later tonight in some areas of western Nevada and really later this weekend. Otherwise, drier conditions and very windy weather will continue. Now looking at the conditions as we move through this afternoon, again these windy conditions will continue in all areas, and we do have high risk for the windy conditions mainly over southern and the western half of Nevada into the Sierra foothills. Although relative humidity in the foothills has been relatively high, above 30 or 40% this morning, wind gusts have already been approaching 80 miles an hour in some wind-prone locations of western Nevada. Therefore, very strong and potentially damaging winds will continue this morning and into this afternoon. If we look at the weather conditions today, we can see over the western areas of Nevada, we will see that increasing humidity. However, again, the image on the right showing the wind gusts show very strong winds above 60 or 70 miles per hour continuing through this morning. Also over southern Nevada, where the relative humidity is much drier, into the single digits and low teens, we will see gusty winds as well, between 40 and 50 miles per hour. And you can see further east across the basin, these strong winds will continue. However, again, the strongest winds today will be over the Sierra into western Nevada. Once we move into Saturday, and we still have that strong area of low pressure along the west coast, with again windy conditions, and again a high risk for winds and low humidity in some areas on Saturday, where the strongest winds and most critical fuels are expected across Nevada. Looking at the weather conditions on Saturday, relative humidity will still remain between 20 and 30% across much of Nevada, which is an increase from what we'll see today, but winds will also likely be quite a bit stronger and be more widespread across Nevada, with these wind gusts above 60 or 70 miles per hour across much of the western and northwest side of the state, and even into southern Nevada, especially in the higher elevations. Therefore, a very critical situation continues later in the day on Saturday and will also continue into Sunday. And what is unique about these winds is they will not only be strong throughout the afternoon, but they will continue and remain strong during the overnight and early morning hours. As we move into Sunday, we see a little bit more moisture move into northwest Nevada and still drier conditions in the south, with again that high risk for winds on Sunday spreading a little bit further south, still into western Nevada, but more focused into the southern half of the state. Looking at the actual conditions on Sunday expected, again, relative humidity will be increasing over northwest Nevada, but still remain between 15 and 20% in the south, and again, the main focus for stronger winds on Sunday will be over the southern half of the Great Basin. Looking at the overall forecast amount of precipitation over the next 3 days, the heaviest amounts will certainly be in the high Sierra. However, as we get into the later portion of the weekend, we'll see some of that precipitation spill over into parts of western, northern Nevada, and also much heavier amounts up into Idaho. However, in the areas of western Nevada that have been very windy this morning with the dry conditions, we likely won't see significant precipitation until later on Saturday night or even into Sunday. As we move into Monday and the low pressure starts to move eastward, We will see the winds decrease somewhat but still remain breezy. However, fire potential should be decreasing as moisture will finally start to spread over the northern half of the Great Basin along with some cooler temperatures. We still may have some moderate fire potential over the southern portion of the Great Basin on the drier side. As we move into Tuesday, we still have moisture lingering over the northern half to two-thirds of the Great Basin, with again generally low fire potential with the exception of parts of far southern Nevada, which will remain low to moderate. Now as we move into the middle of next week, we see a ridge of high pressure developing along the west coast, which will push drier air once again into western and southern areas of the Great Basin, and we will see fuels again start to really dry out over parts of southern Nevada back into the brown category. This will continue on Thursday with warming temperatures and drying across the western two-thirds of the Great Basin, and we will see the fuels start to respond as we get towards later in the week. Looking at the overall forecast amount of precipitation for days 4 through 5, which is really the Monday through Wednesday time period, and you can see a significant decrease in overall precipitation over the western areas, but we'll still see some good amounts of precipitation over Idaho, Wyoming, into northern Utah. Now if we look a little bit further out into the later portion of October, we'll likely see better chances of below normal temperatures and above normal precipitation for the northern and western areas of the Great Basin as we continue to see areas of low pressure move into the west coast, with warmer and drier conditions in southern areas, as again these cold fronts will likely target the northern areas. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us or you can follow us on Twitter. Thank you for listening.